Coming up on Need to Know, with the most segregated public schools in the nation residing right here in New York, some education leaders are now saying enough is enough. Fixing the diversity gap in our school districts starting from the top. That's next. Also on the show, for some, life after high school means endless opportunities. For others, in particular those with disabilities, exiting the school system and entering the adult world can be a daunting process. A new WXXI podcast explores that journey for young people. And we get a first look at how the concept of small homes is changing nursing home culture in Rochester. Stay with us. Need to Know starts right now. There are nearly 4 million public school teachers in our country. The majority of them, about 80%, are white. That same number, 80%, also refers to the number of white principals in the U.S. And when it comes to superintendents, specifically in New York, about 97% are white. A WXXI News investigation titled Degrees of Diversity dug into some of these disparities and their impact ultimately on students. Now, some education leaders in New York are challenging their colleagues, themselves, and their policies to combat what has been called, quote, racist, sexist, classist organizations. Joining me in the studio to discuss both efforts in more detail is Leslie Myers, Superintendent of Rockport Central School District, and Evan Dawson, host of Connections with Evan Dawson, and the journalist behind WXXI's Degrees of Diversity. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
So diversity, or rather a lack thereof, this is the connecting thread between the WXXI investigation and really this challenge turned initiative launched by Lavelle Brown, New York's 2017 Superintendent of the Year, someone that you worked with, Leslie.
Yes.
And that being said, Leslie, at its very core, what does this word, or why does this word, diversity, matter in public education?
Simply because the landscape of our school districts are changing very rapidly. If you look at just districts in Monroe County, you have the scope changing relative to race and ethnicity, particularly the Hispanic and the Latino population is rapidly increasing, as well as socioeconomic status. You have increasing numbers of families and students who are economically disadvantaged. And so the word diversity really is critical discourse right now for especially superintendents to tackle.
And this word is also something that you really dug into when it comes to WXXI's Degrees of Diversity. Some things that I found in listening to your reports, and correct me if I've got anything wrong here, 5 school districts in Monroe County have absolutely no African-American teachers. And you also talked to a superintendent who said in his 20 years as an administrator, he maybe had only 2 candidates of color apply for teaching positions. Yeah. That alone, those 2 things would make anyone's mouth drop, I would think, or I would hope. What else did you find, did you discover in your reports?
Well, first of all, it does matter. There's a lot of research that shows it matters because students of color, when they don't have teachers, administrators, people on staff who look like them, who can share their experiences from a racial or just a diversity standpoint, they suffer in terms of test scores, 3 to 4 points lower on the main subject. So they suffer when it comes to attendance. They suffer when it comes to graduation rates, later incarceration rates. All of those things have been research. We know it matters. But sometimes you've got white parents in the suburbs who will kind of tell you, well, we moved here because we wanted the better schools, or they're a little suspicious of diversity. What we also know is their students, their kids are being hurt by not being in diverse environments. There is research that shows kids benefit from having students of color around them, teachers of color around them, administrators of color, and they're hurt in various ways. So it's not a zero-sum game. It's not just the students of color who are being hurt by not having teachers or administrators administrators. It's also white students. They're not going to be hurt. In fact, they're going to be benefited if we see more diversity.
Earlier this week, I met with Ithaca Superintendent Lavelle Brown. He is the brainchild behind an event taking place next month titled Diversity Symposium of Thought Leaders Cultivating Excellence and Equity. I know, Leslie, that you will be attending this event. So he was inspired to challenge his colleagues, he said, when he won the 2017 New York Superintendent of the Year award. He said he looked out in the crowd, he saw his family, he saw you, he saw very few people who looked like him, and he said something must change. And I want to show you a little bit of a clip, what he told me earlier this week. We'll take a look.
We all have blind spots, we all have prejudices, but we oftentimes don't want to address them or recognize them or talk about it. Conflict, we all are conflict averse, particularly in education. So to engage in a conversation like we're going to have in December about how we aren't inclusive, how we are racist organizations, classist organizations, it creates conflict. And we don't like that. And until we can engage in conflict that's trusting and cooperative instead of competitive, we will always get the same things. What's happening in our state, what's happening in our school districts, in our organizations, it's all in our policies. In our district, we've been looking at every policy from an inclusive, culturally responsive, and loving perspective. And when doing that, we see in writing how we have built, sustained racist, classist, sexist organizations. I will feel that the two-day symposium is successful if folks leave frustrated, emotional, and angry about the two-day session. If not feeling uncomfortable that we've all been complicit in what is racist and classist, sexist behaviors in organizations, if folks leave knowing that they've been a part of that, they should be uncomfortable and angry and frustrated and wishing to do something about it. So that's a good start for me, is that we can engage in a conversation that creates a sense of urgency in individuals that will lead to behavioral shifts and hopes of organizational shifts as we do this work in the coming months and years.
Leslie, Lavelle called the education system in the state and school districts racist, sexist, classist organizations. He said it's a bold statement, will ruffle feathers, but it's the truth. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think about what Angela Davis said. And she said, I am no longer accepting the things that I cannot change. I'm changing the things that I cannot accept. And so when you think about even me entering the superintendency in Monroe County, I was the first woman of color to become the superintendent in 21 school districts. And so there's something that is obviously wrong there and that is concerning. And so I love the fact that we are going to have thought leaders come together from across the state to have really thoughtful conversations, courageous conversations, and really push the envelope. That's what we as educators are about, right? It's not about just talking about history. It's about pushing the envelope and really having conversations that are thoughtful and that are thought-provoking. And so certainly we need to look at the systems and structures that contribute to that, and that could be painful at times, but they are necessary and important conversations that need to be had.
And in looking at the systems, and Evan, when you spoke to superintendents, they were well aware of the issue, the disparity when it comes to this, but acknowledging it as an issue is one thing. Actually implementing steps to bring about change is another thing entirely. Did you see that? Did you hear that steps were being made to address this?
Largely, no. I think many districts said that they cared, but they kind of gave sort of a blanket statement that said, well, we always care about diversity at all levels and we're going to do our best. Some districts care a lot more than others, and you can see that. I would also say I would turn it on parents, and largely white progressive parents who think of themselves as progressives, but they still behave in ways that kind of entrench power structures that don't change. White people who move to suburbs and then say that they care about education or those kinds of things. Now, I'm not saying if you live in a suburb and you're white, you're a bad person, but I'm saying let's all think about the choices we make and ask us what's the root of all of this, because I think everybody has a role.
Right. So Evan talked to Rochester Teacher Association President Adam Urbanski about this, and he said it takes time. I mean, these kinds of things take time to bring about change. We hear that a lot when it comes to education. I understand that with certain initiatives and so on, but does it really take that much time to bring about diversity in schools? And I'm interested in your perspective as a district leader. Is that challenging of a process?
It certainly is. It can feel like melting a huge iceberg. But what I am really excited about, we talked about initiatives from the top down. We have an initiative that's coming from the bottom up, and that's from the students. Tomorrow, we have 600 children from across the county who will be meeting together at an event called Rock to Change. And it specifically talks about addressing inequity in school and inequity in their education. So they will have very targeted and specific conversations as it relates to race. And I'm so excited about that. This is professional development that students have developed, that they will be leading and moving forward. And it doesn't get any better than that.
That's great. I know with your reports too, when you talk to students, they said, we need to see change. We want the diversity. We're asked, and they said we need it. So that's fantastic. Well, we're out of time, but I want to thank both of you for joining me. We have to close for now, but thank you to my guests, Leslie Myers and Evan Dawson, for your time and for your respective work that you're doing in addressing issues of equity in our education system.
Thank you.
And to learn more about degrees of diversity, go to WXXInews.org. We transition from issues of diversity to navigating life after high school for young people with disabilities. It's a moment that some refer to as a cliff, and it's a crucial transition in one's life that WXXI is exploring through a new podcast. It's called Exited, and it follows the lives of 8 young people with disabilities growing up and trying to find their place in a world that so often labels them as being different. Take a look.
You know, every kid on the spectrum has a unique interest, and one of the unique interests that Nate has is the Titanic story. He loves drawing the Titanic and tracing it.
So I will show you my recent ones I did over the years. But here's my favorite part. Here's the ship breaking in two.
Nate's such a wonderful kid, and he has so much to offer, and you want him just to be able to do that further down. We'll get there in our own way, but it's just going to make it so much harder the way the educational system has it set up right now.
Feels like I'm getting there. I'm doing something to make my family happy. I'm proud.
Joining me at the desk to discuss the meaning behind Exited, the process of transition for individuals with disabilities, and more is one of the producers of Exited, WXXI's Veronica Volk. And it's great to have you back. Thank you for being here. So first, it's called Exited. Explain the significance behind the title.
Exited refers to this time in a person's life when they move from in the school system to whatever happens next. So it means they're moving on past high school. They might be getting a diploma or turning 21, but they're not graduating in the traditional sense. They're being exited.
Well, I know for almost about a year, I would say, you and producer and reporter Karen Shakurji, you were given this inside look into what it's like for 8 young people. We're talking between the ages of 17 and 26. You also got to meet and work with their families, and they really invited you in and gave you this opportunity to document that journey. And the very first episode with Nate, who we just got to see, I heard this term called the cliff. What does that mean exactly?
Families especially call it the cliff, and some also people who manage these transitions as well, because it becomes unclear what happens after that. You know, you have a school system who's providing a lot of programs, transportation, other sort of support services for young people with disabilities, and then after that, what happens next is kind of up in the air. They have to navigate all these new systems and find all these new programs kind of on their own and work with new people. So it's confusing.
I would imagine the transition process looks different for everybody.
Yes, it looks different for just about everybody we talk to, and we kind of focus on a different point of life and a different kind of transition in every episode.
Well, in the first episode, as I mentioned, we get to meet Nate, and we get a little bit of a taste of what it's like in terms of trying to, that diploma process. And it's, I would think that some viewers and some listeners who check this out, they will learn about something that they did not know about before when it comes to the hoops that one has. Can you explain just a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, the way that I've kind of been describing this as we talk about it in our meetings is that to a lot of people, the system seems invisible when it works for them. And what we experience in reporting a lot of this is that there are a lot of steps towards getting a diploma, taking Regents tests, you know, passing different tests and classes and whatnot, that some people never experience. And we really wanted to tell the story of what happens when you're kind of working through life in a different way, as a lot of these people with disabilities are.
There was this theme that seems to go throughout the 5 episodes of the podcast, the searching for a sense of belonging. Why does that theme seem to run through? Why is the sense of belonging so important?
Well, I mean, it's something that we all go through, right? You go through it in high school when you're trying to find, people that you get along with. You go through it in college when you're trying to figure out what you want to do next, what kind of job you want to get, what kind of life you want to lead. And it's just this universal kind of feeling of making your way through life and finding a place that you fit in. And we really wanted to tap into that.
So Veronica, do me a favor, just kind of walk the viewers through just a little bit of what we can expect throughout the 5 episodes. The first one is out. Talk to us a little bit about what's being covered.
Absolutely. So the first episode covers, Nate's story and his problem with trying to get a diploma to move on after high school. Our next episode is going to focus more about the college experience and college-like programs for young people with disabilities. We are also going to be talking about sheltered workshops and the confusion around whether or not they will be shut down, integrated workspaces, and more about that. We're also going to be talking about rehabilitation programs for young people with disabilities and the family dynamics, people within their families working out what's going to happen in the next phase of life.
What do you want the listeners and the viewers watching this program right now, what do you think is the most important thing for them to gain and checking out Exited?
I mean, from my perspective, I just really want to tell the stories, of the people that we're talking about here. Karen has done some amazing reporting and some amazing interviews, but I think what we really want to do is just kind of like tell stories about the human experience, maybe from a perspective that other people haven't heard.
That's great. And I totally agree with you in terms of it being a perspective people have not heard. I got to check out the first episode before it was released, and absolutely phenomenal reporting. So congratulations to you and the team for that.
Thank you.
So we have to close for now, but do be sure to check out the very first episode of Exited. It is out right now. Just go to exitedpodcast.org. Now, Exited is a podcast from WXXI's Inclusion Desk, a multi-platform reporting effort to inform and transform attitudes and behavior about inclusion. The Inclusion Desk grew from the Move to Include partnership between WXXI and the Golisano Foundation. Small homes are being called a new alternative to home care in an effort to redefine nursing home culture. Think a family kitchen experience rather than serve meals. Elder decision-making as opposed to top-down management calling all the shots. Professional home environment attire rather than medical scrubs, just to name a few differences. A small homes project is currently underway at St. John's here in Rochester. We recently stopped by to meet one of the elders and learn a little more about this new concept. Take a look.
All my family is gone. The ones that I grew up with. Put it that way. Yeah, I'm the only one. I mean, I have my children, my sons and my daughters and everything, but I don't have my parents, I don't have my sisters, brothers. They're all gone. So this is my family now.
There you go, babe.
Being in a small home, you're helping each other because everybody in that small home is there for a reason.
All right, where are we going?
The Shabazz, they do everything. They clean, they could do anything. But it would be nice if we had more of them. We do need more. We have 26 residents right now, but we are going to have more naturally, and we need more aides, more people to help out. But it's hard to get. This job is not easy. They're very helpful. They know their job and they do it. They've all had to go for training to be a Shabazz. And it's a job that they love.
Does that feel better?
Thank you. Yes, Thank you very much. You can't beat the food, especially when you don't have to cook it. Let's put it that way. It's there. Yeah, and we don't have that much trouble with food. And we have the option of going downstairs to the restaurant. We could get anything we want downstairs on the first floor. They're very nice to us. They treat us like royalty. Natalie, do I have mail?
You do.
Residents feel good when they know that there's people here that love them, that will do anything for them.
All right, you have a good day.
Okay, bye, bye. Love you too.
Joining me to share more about the Small Homes Project at St. John's is Rebecca Priest, Vice President of Skilled Services at St. John's, and Christy Wolf-Necklace, Shabazz at St. John's. Welcome to both of you. Thanks. So just to begin, Rebecca, how would you define or break down the meaning of small homes?
So when you look at long-term care, one of the things that we've done over the last 60 years is created hospitals for people to live in when they need long-term care. And I don't know about you, but I certainly don't want to live in a hospital just because I need care. And I know that there are many models across the nation where if you need care, you can still live in home, but sometimes your actual house doesn't work. So what we're doing is really showing that if your house doesn't work, you can have a house where you have the supports you need, but you don't have to live in a hospital with all of those medical kind of impositions that come alongside of that. You can remember that you're a fully spiritual and engaged human in your community well beyond your medical diagnosis.
So describe a little bit then, to create this home feeling, what is the physical environment like? I know when we were there filming, some construction was underway at one of the small homes that we stopped by where we got to meet Anne, but how do you create an environment that feels more like family as opposed to a traditional nursing care facility?
Yeah, so the physical environment's one part of a small home, and it's really important. It's all about being small, right? Mm-hmm. So in a traditional kind of model of long-term care, which is really prevalent not only in the Rochester community but across the nation. Again, they were built with funding that kind of bred this build a hospital. So long corridors, 40 people on a floor, a lot of depersonalized efforts, kind of this kind of cookie cutter hospital sterile vibe. But what a small home is about is being small. You want to try and figure out how can you shrink it down so that one, it's accessible and people can walk as many distances as possible. Two, it's flexible enough to meet the design desires of the people who live in it. So can they shift artwork? Can they paint colors? Can they really create a sense of feeling of normalcy, I think is kind of what you're looking for.
Well, when we visited, I heard this term that I'd never heard before, and it's your title, Shabazz, and I learned about it. I want to know describe what does a Shabazz do, and how do you differentiate between the work and the role of a Shabazz versus a direct care worker or a nurse or an aide?
The Shabazz is a royal falcon. We sustain, nurture, and protect our flock. And so when I go into work every day, everybody that I work with, all the residents that I care for, every day we get up, I give them the best quality of life that I can. It sounds like such a busy household in the morning. We're getting up, we're getting dressed, we're playing music. Some of them are dancing, and then when we get to breakfast, we all sit and eat together. We try to get everyone in there, and it's just, when you walk in, it looks like a very big family. Sometimes we have background music playing, sometimes we'll watch the news. And then, and then behind the scenes, we take care of their individual needs also. And we know them very well, they know us very well. They know us so well, they know what day we're there. If someone new's on the floor, they know it, like, oh, you're not supposed to be here, so-and-so supposed to be here. Like, it's that absence. If you're absent, they notice it. Yeah. It's family. We see each other every day, same thing every day. They trust us. And
one thing that Anne mentioned to me during her interview, she said, we have a voice here. She said the elders have a voice, and she said if someone's not happy about something, then we can let them know. If we're really happy about something, or we want to expand on something or try something, they take I don't know if she said they've got leaders in certain small homes communities, and they go and they kind of share whatever those desires may be. Is that how is that about right?
Yes.
How does that work?
We have a family meeting once a week during lunch. We could do it anytime, but we all chose lunch in our house. And whatever they like, whatever they don't like, they can say it at the table. Everyone gets a turn to give their voice of what they want. Like, we have one person, he loves fried chicken, so every Friday we get him fried chicken. And everybody loves French toast, so every Sunday we make French toast, and we do it big. And it's just, they can pick their activities, what movies they want to watch. They don't, they like the Bruce Willis movies. I was really shocked.
The Die Hard film?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a favorite.
It's just like, it's interesting little things like that, but they can say what comes and goes. And if they don't like that activity that's going on for the day, we have other activities going on throughout the day. So every day there's something for them to do.
Yeah. It's so really looking at that model of elder decision making. Again, systemically, what we've done is we've disempowered people as they age, and we've disempowered the traditional CNA role to this kind of, I would say, shallow shell of what really people can bring to that CNA role. So Shabazz is really, I just finished Hamlet, and you'll probably get annoyed with this, but Hamlet's really about leaving all of the things that are driving you mad about your current situation, literally crazy, and going away and kind of coming back with a fresh perspective. So when we talk about language changes and we talk about operational changes and physical structure changes, it's about abandoning all of those things about long-term care that have made it the stigma that people don't want to go to, that people are afraid to work in, that people are afraid to help their family members get connected with, which it's not helping our social challenge of aging. So it's really about turning those, going away and kind of coming back with a fresh perspective. The Shabazim, house meetings, instead of one resident council with a few select kind of bureaucratic house leaders, really saying, the elders who come into our home are full people. They can make decisions regardless of their abilities. How do we get them the format in order to be heard? And how do we get the staff the power, information, resources they need in order to respond to what they're hearing?
One thing I heard from Ann and from a few of the other elders that we spoke to, they said the Shabazim, plural form of Shabazz, they work so hard and we need more of them. What are some of the challenges in getting on board the Shabazz, like Christy, that are trained and able to take on that job?
Christy and I we trained as CNAs together when I was getting my administrator's license, so we were so grateful to be here. But when we went through that CNA orientation, we both kind of looked at each other and go, we have a lot of work to do. The medical model is designed to take care of sick people. Long-term care is designed to help people live. So we really had to turn all of those trainings on their head. And what we've done is really looked at how do we bring about kind of foundational principles of how you can bring your whole self to work. So we want Shabazim to know that you can bring your whole self, all of your kind of talents, skills, and that you have a structure, a format, and the power in our organization to come on board.
Well, our time is up, but a very special thank you to my guests, Rebecca Priest and Christy Wolf-Necklace. And to learn more about the Small Homes Project at St. John's, be sure to check out their website, stjohnsliving.org. And that is it for this edition of Need to Know, WXXI's News Magazine. I'm your host, Helene Bianduti Hofer. Thank you for joining me, and have a good night.